p.m. May 30th. I'll take a roll call for the open workshop. Trustee Alonso is absent. Trustee Cruden is present. Trustee Desmond is present. Trustee Finnerty is present. Trustee Munoz is present. Trustee Ryan is present. Trustee Bellato is present. Vice President Wilbeck is present. And President Broderick is here also. I'll turn the meeting over to the superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Maida. Good evening, everyone. This month I was the guest speaker at the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, CPAC. At their evening meeting, I presented an overview of the vision and mission of the district, and we had a very lively exchange of ideas and concerns, and we have some plans that we hope to put together for the future, which will benefit all of our students. Also, I delivered the welcome address at the pre-K celebration at Philip G. Room School. I addressed the students at the induction ceremony of the National Junior Honor Society at Dr. Walter Robinson Community School, and I spoke at the National English Honor Society induction ceremonies. This week, we conducted several interviews utilizing the new hiring protocol, which includes a demonstration lesson. We have excellent finalists, and I will be recommending 13 for appointment tonight. Kindly remember, we are still running on 70 teacher fewer positions. These are considered replacements. We're still running with 70 fewer teaching positions. We conducted the full-day tuition-free pre-K lottery. The district will again be providing this program in 5 schools, number 1, 2, 5, 8, and 9. Over 200 families registered for the lottery, and 75 more children will now have the opportunity of a full-day program. Placement and registration began last Monday. In the area of curriculum and instruction, we continue to plan for a multi-tiered system of supports, the MTSS, for grades K through 2. Our elementary principals received training on the new phonics program, Foundations, yesterday, for implementation this September. Foundations will also address dyslexia as well as handwriting. God bless you. In the area of assessment, God bless you again. We completed our month-long PARCC testing process. Last week, we introduced the new online science test, and Friday will be the final day of standardized district testing for this year. And as we prepare for graduations, I am happy to report all seniors that have requisite graduation requirements will be eligible to graduate based upon the graduation appeals process. Dr. Degnan will now update you on Foundations, PARCC, the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment for Science, and the graduation appeal process. Dr. Degnan?
Thank you, Dr. Lonko. Good evening, trustees. Yesterday, we had the pleasure of Susan Frank from the Wilson Reading Company provide professional development to our elementary principals, assistant principals, and multi-tiered system of support team members. Mrs. Frank provided our administrators with an overview of the Foundations Phonics program. Foundation serves as a prevention program to help reduce reading and spelling failure, and it is integral to a multi-tiered system of supports or response to intervention framework, providing research-based instruction as well as early intervention for students at risk for reading difficulties. To support implementation of MTSS framework, progress monitoring is built into Foundations. This allows students requiring a more intensive program to be identified early before undergoing years of struggle. So now, in addition to the 100-book challenge program, which is after school and for specific students, teachers will have an additional 30 minutes per day, 3 to 5 times per week of phonics instruction for all students. Training for our early childhood teachers will take place on the first full day staff training and development day on September 28th. Plans are also underway to purchase the adaptive diagnostic online test for September for students in K-2 with training provided early in the fall. Foundations, the adaptive diagnostic, the 100-book challenge will provide our earliest learners with the additional supports required to be successful students. Testing continues to be a challenge, especially in a high school. The science test is based upon credits and not the course the student is sitting in, so in essence, there could be a junior in a science course testing in a room with an administrator they are not familiar with. So the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment for Science is based on junior credit status. So you may possibly not even be in a science class and have to take the science assessment. Also, the science assessment is 4 units, which could have basically been 4 days. We tried to reduce the impact, so we did the 2 units per day. So that was our plan. The online version of PARC, DLM, and the New Jersey Student Learning was supposed to make life easier. However, the amount of time to prepare the class lists, organize the testing locations, establish administrator and proctor schedules, provide makeups, and just the overwhelming amount of time to complete this has been taxing on the student, staff, and technology and testing offices. But I would like to thank our technology administrators, Mr. Fogel and Dr. McAndrew, and teachers assigned to the testing office, Drs. Desjardins Dan and Jolene Bergantino, as well as our leadership team and all staff members for providing quality testing conditions for our students. I do have a little packet, and I just wanted to update you, and you might be seeing this in the Star Ledger, but there is a concern now for the students in the class. Let me hand that out, and we can look at it together. For the class of 2020. Just get a copy of that.
Dr. Degnan, while Dr. Bader is handing it out, aren't all students, by the time they become juniors, don't they have to have taken biology?
Yes, but the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment for Science is not a biology test anymore. It's a comprehensive science exam. So it's a grade 11 test. So you're covering all the standards.
Physics as well?
Physics, chemistry, physical science, environmental science, and life sciences. It's comprehensive.
Seems rather unfair to me.
My remarks further down the line, I am pleased that I was selected. I'm going to Long Branch to the listening tour that the commissioner put in. Myself and Jolene Bergantino were selected from our school district. There's a lot of feedback I'm going to bring on June the 5th. We have to meet with the focus group.
One last comment.
Yeah.
Why don't we use the PARC scheduling to do the science scheduling? You spend all this time with doing class scheduling for PARC.
Yeah.
It does not fit with the science
So
testing?
you know what happens, you may be an English language arts teacher and teach English 10, and you have 5 sections of English 10. You would be the administrator for those 5 students, 125 in the room. It's credits. There might be there's all different junior level science classes, so a teacher may not have the same group of 85 students. That's the difference. You're still going to have the same room, but you're not going to have the same proctor. So I could be the proctor for the science exam and not have any students that I even know who they are because they're not in my class. They might be in environmental science, they may be in chemistry, they may be in a different chemistry level. So we do use the same PARC schedule, but doing the proctoring exam is a little more difficult.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. But this is the guidance from the state that I shared with everybody, and if you look at page 4 now, these are the current grade 10 students, or the class of 2020. Okay, these students have to pass, or what we say is meet expectations or exceed expectations for Algebra 1 and English 10. So these are our current sophomores. But the requisite is that these students must take the test. If they're a 9th grader, they have to sit for the English 9 ELA and the Algebra 1. If they don't sit, if they refuse, then they're not eligible for a portfolio appeal. So there's been a lot of questions in the state about students taking the test in 9th grade, passing English 9, and then skipping English 10. Now they're not eligible to graduate. We would have that problem because we expect everybody, we said this all along, to take every test every year. We would not get involved with the opt-out or refusals. Now, if students decided to do this, it's on them. However, what we have to do now is, just so you're aware, we have to provide the PARC basically year-round. We will have to now provide the PARC in the summer, okay, for English as well as math, which means Any students that refuse, that now we're waking up and saying, oh man, I gotta take this test, we have to provide it. Any non-park states, if I transferred in from a state that wasn't a park and we came into Bayonne, and even though you passed your Algebra 1 or English 10, you still have to sit for the test. Any non-public students that come into our building, we have to identify. So this has become a year-round process of auditing and checking. And any students that just basically fail to meet or exceed expectations in our district. So we have to offer this test now in the summer, again in the fall block, which we say usually happens in the winter, around January, and again in the spring. So we have to provide every opportunity for these students to take this test because, as you can see from this chart, there's no more alternatives other than the portfolio appeal. Trustee.
Have we calculated the cost to do all this jumping through hoops and?
Yeah, the cost from the state for the test is they take the test. I mean, what we're doing is really providing the instruction.
But
Yeah.
the instruction,
Yeah.
the testing, the preparation for testing areas and all of it.
That will be in my
Including-
comments when I go to them and
I
just,
bet.
when I go down and explain, you know, there are teen arts festivals, there are science trips, there are things that people want to continue to do that's it's having a serious impact. And we'll sure to let them know, and I've been doing a little listening tour of myself to teachers and administrators and how they feel, but it is a lot of work. It goes into, it shifts lunch periods, it shifts teachers' schedules, it's.
Just want to remind you, I live for the day when there's no more park testing.
But I could tell you, as Dr. Wanko, we are pleased to report that all seniors 2018 that are eligible to graduate will not be hindered in any way because of the state testing requirement. You know, because of the board's efforts, Directors Aiello and Ruane were able to provide the CRTs, or the portfolio appeals process. They sent me back the state that everybody that applied was cleared. So in English Language Arts, we had 29 day school students and 8 alternative students are cleared. In math, we had the 58 day school and the 9 alternatives. So we are excited that, you know, if they did their service learning, they passed their courses, this test would not hinder our class of 2018. And the final update I have is that we will have our CUSAC visit on Friday. I just want to remind you that June 8th, that we will have our visit for curriculum instruction. A week from Friday, just to give you a week away.
What's the focus going to be?
The focus would be on curriculum and instruction. That's what they will look at. We've had a plan in place that they reevaluated over the last 2 years, and now they want to come in and see that we've been implementing it, and it would be on that day. So they would look at proficiency on the part, they'll look at growth on the part, they'll look at proficiency on science, growth on the science, and then they could go into actually your curriculum documents, lesson planning, things of that nature.
One other question. I
Go
see
ahead.
that we do have scores for the SAT critical reading for the class of 2018. I'm not seeing, what's the expected score for the class of 2020 for the SAT? Do they give us that?
For the
Like for
current
2018, the score was to be 450 or greater?
This was the most recent guidance. I don't see it on here. It could have.
My question really is, are they expecting our students to score better than 450 on the reading part too?
I don't know. I can definitely look into that, but I do know that you can't even use that as an alternative unless you sit for English 9.
The park?
Yes, you have to sit, or they won't even open this parachute. So that's where a lot of these current sophomores think that they're going to pass based on the SAT, but they didn't sit for the Part 10.
So they still have to do park regardless
Yes.
of what the alternative.
I'll share a
going to
letter
be.
with the
All
board
right.
from the Star Ledger, I believe, that the letter that some districts, parents thought that they could refuse it, and now they're getting hung up, so.
Okay, thank you.
But you see, when you go to the final grade, 2021, it's park or portfolio appeal. I mean, that's ultimately what the state wanted to move in that direction. Current grade 9, take it past the park or meet the criteria of portfolio appeal. There are no alternatives. So the plan was to sit.
Any other questions?
Question?
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Decker. I need to announce before we move on that we have a repeat grandfather. Mr. Smith has a baby girl in the family now.
Getting to be monthly thing.
Thank you, thank you. Everybody's healthy, that's the main thing, thank you.
He's keeping us in business, yes. So, following that tragic school bus crash, I went over to Mr. Smith's office and I asked him if we could arrange for additional training for our bus drivers. They have received training, please don't misunderstand. I'm just asking for additional, which he has reached out to the state to arrange for. He's going to discuss that. He's also going to give you an update on the damaged steam line that runs from campus north to south, and also some security updates. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Dr. Wanko. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Following that tragic accident, Dr. Wanko came in, as he said, and he said, what type of training do we get? Now, every 3 years, NJSIG, our insurance company, does offer training for our drivers. We send them out there. In addition to that, we also check their abstracts on a bi-yearly basis, according to Mr. Kiola and Mr. Kubert. So the driver involved in that accident with the Paramus school system had about 14 violations, I believe, over the course of a 25-year career. Totally unacceptable. So what they will do, they will come in one Friday over the summer. We're still working out the details, and they will go through their driver protocol for all of our school bus drivers. As you may remember, some of you, we had an accident on the Turnpike Extension Bridge during a heavy traffic pattern that our driver, Renee, was able to avert a real tragedy up there, considering the height of the bridge, the time of the day, and the flow of the traffic, because he was previously trained in what to do and how to handle that vehicle. Our hearts go out to those in Paramus, but we will be at the forefront of this training along the way, as we always do, and looking for good things to come from that. In addition to that, by training, our drivers, not the district, but our drivers will be eligible, I believe, for a 5% reduction in their personal automobile insurance policies once they get that certificate that they were trained. So it's a win-win for them. And if we can prevent, just one accident, it will well be worth it. The National Transportation Safety Board, after this accident, had put out a statement that they would like to see all school buses with safety belts. All of our buses do have belts, but they would like to see them with the 3-point harness, the ones that go over the lap and across the shoulder, as most of us now have in our own private automobiles. With that said, I went right to Dr. Wanko and President Broderick. We have 4 new buses coming online in September, and what we did is we chose to buy that option for those 4 new buses coming online. So all of our new vehicles will have the 3-point harness as recommended by the National Transportation Safety Board. Our older buses, we're trying to get a price to retrofit them with the 3-point harnesses. But when you retrofit old buses like that, the seats need to come out because these harnesses need to be attached to the chassis underneath. It is quite a lengthy process, they're telling me, but we are also exploring that so all of our children are not in harm's way regardless of the incident. And a seatbelt is only as good as we all know if you use it. So we tell our people going on field trips, we tell them that it's mandatory, that they be harnessed up, that they be seated, and not distracting the driver in any way, shape, or form. Today, yes, Mary?
How many more? When is the next round of buses likely?
We have, I believe we have 2 coming offline in the next 2 years. When they hit a shelf life of 20 years, we're obligated by the state, regardless of the shape of the bus, we have to retire it. We can no longer use it. We can sell it for scrap, we can sell it, we can donate it, but we can no longer use it to transport our students. This afternoon, we met with Neglia, our engineering firm, about the steam pipe leak that runs across our campus from the main building to 30th Street. As you know, that line, the boiler's on 30th Street, it supplies the whole complex. We ran into a leak about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We've dug it up. We are in the process now. We've mapped out where the utilities are located. They are coming back on June 11th for another meeting, at which time we will come to finance on June 12th. We have a finance committee meeting at June 12th, and we will present the options of what we need to do in order to get heat in the main building and this particular building. No, this building will be okay. Into the main building of the high school for heating season, which starts October 15th. That's when we're obligated by state regulation to supply heat to the buildings if it's cold enough, just so you know. We're on a very, very strict timeline. We met today for about an hour with them and with our own staff, Mike Kubert, Lou Pacina, and Scott Nolan. We will do a majority of the digging of that road that runs between the ice rink and the tennis court. The pipeline will run down that road. It will be buried some 4 feet down. We will dig it up once the last day of school is over. We will block that off. We won't be able to use it for the duration of the construction and the burying, the installation, and then the burying of the pipeline. But we're getting all our ducks in order to hit that October 15th timeline so we can have heat in the buildings. If not, we may have to go buy some space heaters, or as Dr. Wanko suggested, some of the old kerosene heaters that give off the...
Now who's showing whose age?
Yeah, so also we have an update. We also did meet with the architects today, DMR. As you know, our long-range facility plan was recently updated, and we included in that some of the suggestions made by staff, central office, and yourself in regards to safety and security concerns, being what's going on in this country. Not a week seems to go by where we do not hear of another tragic incident in and around the country in regards to school shootings. We've met with them today. They're going to come back for June 12th with an updated figure. We will get that to finance on June 11th, and then we can pursue the option, ladies and gentlemen, of including those improvements along with our long-range facility plan in a budget question to go on the ballot for November 6th, if we can meet the timeline. We did speak with our bond counsel, McMahon, Scotland, and Bauman, and they said it would be it'll be a tough timeline to hit, but in discussions today with the architect, they seem to think that it's feasible. By going out into the general election, what we get is we don't have to pay for the use of the voting machines or the security or the personnel, which would equate to about $200,000. The bad thing about going out in November is that it is a general election, and the turnout is usually quite high. If we were to use a December date, we can also go out for the election in December. We might get a smaller, more interested crowd in voting in that particular election, which could help us to pass the question. But we will bring all that information back to you as soon as we have it. So any questions on the steam pipe or the ballot question?
I have a question, though, on transportation. I always have a question. What are we doing to ensure that the private transportation companies that we hire, like we do hire many of them, I'm signing vouchers, what are we doing to ensure that the drivers of those private vans, those private vehicles, are being
Trained.
Thank you. Trained.
They're trained, and we invite them to our training through our insurer once or twice a year. We invite them in November when we have a general safety session for all of our custodians, our engineers, all of our support staff. We also vet them via the abstract through their company. We ask that when they assign a driver that we're able to see the abstract, that they have no major violations other than, maybe unpaid parking tickets or something like that. And training is available to them. And we also included in the specs when we put these bids out, that the drivers should be trained. They should have the S2 classification. You know, their abstract needs to be clean of any moving or major traffic violations.
I
So
want them to be
we-
compelled,
Yeah, we do that.
not should,
Yeah,
compelled.
I
absolutely.
like that word. Are they gonna be
Thank you.
invited to the summer training?
We can do that, we can reach out to, the problem is, we don't know who they are yet.
Okay.
Because in September, we may get a whole new batch of drivers. That's why we do it in November.
Okay.
And we are still pursuing, with ASME, the possibility of getting our own part-time drivers with a couple of small vehicles to do some of these out-of-district runs. As you remember, I put together a spreadsheet for you about 6
Yes.
or 7 months ago to see the financial benefits associated with hiring our own part-time drivers and buying some vehicles and utilizing them for these runs in the morning and the afternoon. It isn't at a cost savings to the district, but we're in negotiations with ASME right now, and that is one of the points on the table. And hopefully I have good news to report to you on that in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
I also asked Dr. Wanko, I know that Hudson County Schools of Technology is doing some of our runs on the weekend, and I asked if their drivers could be included in that training, and Dr. Wanko said he would reach out.
We did reach out to them.
And they're
Stay tuned in. Stay tuned in.
What's the word, compelled?
coming? Okay, so, I think we should talk to our freeholder about that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Smith. Earlier, I mentioned the new hiring procedure. Mr. Lopez and I have been very busy working with building principals, directors, to plan and properly staff our classrooms for September. As you know, I was trying to get everything done by June. I'm also trying to get all schedules out for students by June. So this will be a paradigm shift for a lot of people. People are getting out of their comfort zone, but it will make things a lot better for everyone. We're still pushing. We're pushing. So Mr. Lopez will give you an update on the staffing process. He'll also give you an update on the Job Career Expo that we recently held. He'll also talk about the committee meeting we had on supply lists so that we can get that uniform on the website, and stores and parents and teachers will all be on the same page for when they go out shopping for supplies. And he'll also go over the mandatory trainings. Mr. Lopez?
Thank you, Dr. Wanko. As Dr. Wanko stated, our new interviewing and hiring process has been successful. Dr. Wanko will be recommending 13 candidates to the board to be hired for the 2018-19 school year, and that's to replace our recent retirements and resignations. We will continue to recruit and hire the best candidates available to staff our district for September. The Job and Career Expo that was held on the 22nd in the Rich Corby Ice Rink had 40 vendors and 155 job seekers attend. The feedback from the employers was very positive, and we thank the Hudson County One Stop Career Center for their assistance. And of course, I would like to thank all of our board members who were present that night to support that expo. I do have a handout if you have any questions from that job fair. Dr. Maida will hand out. A committee was created to come up with a uniform plan for the summer school supply list. All schools will be using the same template. There will be one supply list for each grade level per school, and the supply list will be uploaded to our school websites on June 15th. All grades from every school will be uploaded on the same day, which will be June 15th, so the parents will have their lists for September before they leave. We will also be taking those lists and bring them over to Walmart so that they have those lists over there as well. We will continue to use Safe Schools for state mandatory trainings, and we will have all of our new employees trained this summer during our new teacher orientation. Today, school district and school harassment, intimidation, and bullying grades required by the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act were released from the state. And I'm pleased to tell you that our district received a score of 76 out of 78. So the highest score you get is a 78. We received a 76. Dr. Maida, can you hand these out? This is a state mandate that's reported to the board. The scores are based on different categories such as programs, training, curriculum, personnel, reporting and investigative procedures. And what you have in front of you will be posted on each individual school website and our district website, and that is also a state mandate. These were just released today. If you have any questions on any of those. That's the items for tonight, Doc.
I have one question. Going back to the job fair, I understand this year we're gonna try to reach out and see if people that have received any kind of positions or anything like that, so we kind of have a little history on that.
Yeah, the One Stop Career Center, they're going to track those individuals for us.
And can I just say two things? One, regarding the school supplies, I was wondering if, once we have those lists tabulated, as in addition to putting it on the school websites, if we could put it on the school social media accounts?
Absolutely. We'll repost it 3 times throughout the summer.
Right, just because I know that every school has a Twitter handle, and they've been very successful disseminating information in that way. And then the other thing about the job fair, I know I passed by with trustee Ryan and trustee Broderick and a couple of others, and it was really a great fair, but I gotta give a shout out to Mr. Barbero and the Culinary Arts Program, because those cookies were phenomenal.
The chocolate chip
okay?
cookies were
The
terrific.
chocolate chip cookies, I gotta tell you, the job fair was great, I'm glad people are getting jobs, but the cookies though. So I just wanna give a shout out to that program, that's amazing, and I'd like to move if they can cater every board meeting with those cookies, thank you.
I don't think they did it.
Cheaper than the Judicki.
I don't think they did.
That's
Do you have any other questions for Mr.
He
Lopez?
told me.
Besides the cookies.
Okay. That seemed to be the most important thing at tonight's agenda, okay. So as you know, earlier this month, we had an election, and a number of our campuses are used as polling sites. We had extra security at each site because we were in session on election day. We also scanned everyone who entered our buildings with our metal detectors. Reports were that all went relatively well with the enhanced security. However, we did have a critique the day after the process, and we will be using the same protocol for the June 5th election with some slight modifications. But everything seemed to work very well, and we appreciate all the hard work of our security people, as well as the police and the people at the polling areas, the principals. It went very smoothly. And in fact, today we met with Mr. Baccarella to go over an alternate site for graduation in case we have rain, and how we're going to move our metal detectors from one site to the other. So there's a lot of behind-the-scenes planning going on for security to make sure that we are on the highest alert at all times. Yes.
I've already mentioned, but I did want to share with everybody, it may be time to look at alternate spots for voting with all the security issues, people coming into schools, and also if they're still coming in, while they're still coming into the schools, that there be some communication with the county officials and security so that ancillary people don't take it upon themselves to start shooing people away because they don't have the right election credentials, which has nothing to do with being in our schools for our purposes.
That was discussed at our critique, and Mr. Lopez is working on that for the June 5th election.
Well, you did take it out of, like, they took it out of Woodrow Wilson School, but however, they had to put it back in because the firehouse was under construction.
Right.
So we're back in Woodrow to the firehouse.
And we certainly don't want to stop instruction on another day or
No.
another
No,
2 days, so
it's just gotta be,
we're just gonna work it out.
yeah.
We will get a plan that will work. Any other questions? Hearing none, I would like to turn the meeting back to Dr. Maida.
We'll start with our consent agenda. Curriculum Committee met, Resolution A1 through A23. We're done at committee. If there's not any other questions from anyone, that's okay. I will move on
I
to,
want to give trustee Pruden a lot of credit for she gives out the best information, I have to say that.
Oh, with the committee
committee report after the meeting. Moving ahead to B, our Finance, Building and Grounds. Since the committee met, I'd like to ask you to turn, there's two new resolutions, B19 and B20. B19, a few months back, we had bids, and part of that bid was not awarded, Washington School window and masonry work. And B19 is the resolution now. If you remember part of the story, panoramic window and door came in number one on the lowest bid, but they miscalculated, so they requested to be removed.
Spartan was the next lowest.
And Spartan was the next lowest bid.
Lowest responsible.
And you could see the big difference
Yeah.
between the two, so obviously it was a math error
Obviously.
on panoramics.
You can't add, you
They did
can't
submit a
be
letter
interrupted.
asking to be removed. Okay, so that's,
And remember, you cannot get promoted now unless
Unless
you
you
pass
pass math every
mathematics.
year.
and then another add-on, B20, is our membership in the HCIAL for the 18-19 school year. And then there's a backup sheet for all the sports.
Did you
And they,
recalculate?
they charge you by a sport,
Karen,
and then there's an
did you
$1,800
recalculate?
dues. So you total that
I did
all up,
too.
and it comes out to $5,575.
Confirmed by trustee Stevens.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Secretary Maida and Mr. Smith. Is the 9th Street property on this agenda?
No.
Oh, I thought we agreed in finance it would come to the board in this meeting.
Well, we didn't do it as a resolution because we thought we would talk to the full board and make sure they're all on board, and then we would put a resolution together. for
Instead of
June.
pulling the resolution again.
Yes.
You know what?
Would that be like
I am
12,
all
13
for
times?
being cautious. I agree.
But since you did bring it up, trustee, why don't you, we can do that out here? We just can't talk numbers. Right. Okay, trustee, since you did bring it up, why don't you mention it to the rest of the trustees? We're just not gonna talk any dollar figure.
I will defer this
Hold on
top.
1 second, you're negotiating a dollar figure with
No, no.
Whether or not we're bringing the resolution to a vote at a future
Ad
meeting.
nauseum, I have,
Committing the sale.
Yeah.
Right, so yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to defer to the expertise of the finance chair, trustee Desmond, on this one. So, go ahead. All you.
well, I'll finish where I start. Ad nauseum, I keep asking for this to go on. There are multiple uses for that dollar amount, but not for the property. It's a liability waiting to happen anyway, and it's definitely, as far as I'm concerned, not a piece of property we can utilize that in any way enhances our district. So I think the money enhances, even if it's one time, but the property does not.
And then also, as a member of finance, I agree with that. I actually did go down.
Big problem
You
you
know
were.
what? No, I took my youngest son out. We got a nice lunch, so I went to the 8th Street Diner, and I figured, let me walk down the block and check it out. And it is a landlocked piece of property. There's really nothing we can do with it. Trustee Desmond is
How about all those
upset because
pictures?
she's been saying that, I don't trust pictures. She's been saying this for about a year, but I understand it is kind of a little bit difficult to say get rid of property. You think assets, you think, hold on to an asset, but it's really nothing we can do with that property. It's best to go out to bid and get the money for it while we can before something happens, and we'll be held liable for whatever happens on that piece of property that we can't use.
Thank you.
I also certified to the state that it had no educational value, therefore you are empowered to sell the land.
We took all the steps, whether it be getting an assessment, doing what you did. We went down that path, and it got hung up right here at this table.
Who hung it up?
Now you're down to one.
So if the rest of the
Pick it up, vote him.
trustees
I mean, if-
are somewhat in favor, we'll prepare a resolution for next month to have on the agenda. Unless,
Actually went down.
if we could put a resolution together tonight, I will add it. Okay.
Well, I mean,
Do it tonight.
Thank you. That would make me very
All right, so
happy.
we're gonna work on that and get a new resolution drawn up with
That
tonight's
would make me
date.
very happy.
Good, that's fine.
That's good.
You know, my job is to make you
I can
trustees.
vote crap.
My overall job is to make you trustees happy.
I mean, I would like to mention to the trustees, you know, Vice President Wilbeck, Trustee Finity, Trustee Cruden, Trustee Ryan. This was discussed at the finance meeting, and I was under the assumption that we were going to bring this to the entire board for a vote this evening about that property. So it's not like we're just adding resolutions. I really did assume it was supposed to be on the Bs.
I was at the finance meeting when they discussed this, and as you guys probably remember, I was also one of the ones that was against the sale of the property prior to this. But in researching it and talking to some of the central office people about what we could do with the assets we receive from this, being it be a one-time sale property, that, and there's certain one-time products and things we could get for this, I've kind of changed my opinion on that, so. we'll
Yeah,
discuss
I
this.
kind of have a different thought in regards to that. I recollect having visited there at one time, and it wasn't landlocked. And do we have an assessed value of that property?
Yes, we've had it.
You know, have any of the other trustees investigated that property and looked at it?
Yeah, it's landlocked.
No, I disagree. And
Well,
the
you got
reason
this-
I disagree is because
the
I know
parking
one
lot's on the
individual
one
wants to utilize it as a parking lot. So how could it be landlocked if it's going to be utilized as a parking lot?
Because the city
It's
put.
egress and, what do you
Right,
call it, egress?
you would have to go through
Ingress.
the municipal lot to get there, and then also it's blocked by the city, what are those things called? Dividers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dividers, I don't want those metal structures. There's no way to get to it right now. Plus, one of the private owners someone who owns a property next to it has like, what is that, a parking garage on the other side of it?
It was the old arena rental
It's like a
building
structure,
on 10th
right.
Street that goes over the old egress route that ran between 9th and 10th Street, west up to Avenues, made a quick left
Use it
turn
again.
onto 9th Street to get out of there. At one time, it was owned by the fire department, I believe. They used it for storage.
My only comment on this is that there's a reason why this board went into a committee group, and that finance sits and they discuss things for hours, and curriculum sits and discuss things for hours. And we as trustees who are not on those various committees trust what those members of the committee recommend. So, to my way of thinking, if that is what the committee is recommending, I trust you, you are trustees. If that's what you are recommending for us, not them being led blindly, but you know a lot more about this than I do. So if that's your recommendation, I'm going to go along with it.
Yes,
I
sir.
think to play
I
it
have
safe,
it
what
too.
I'll do is I'll put it on non-consent
Okay.
anyway. This way, if someone does feel differently, they're not locked into a consent agenda, so we'll do that.
Okay.
Okay?
And I had the committee of the non-consenting trustees. So I lost track of it for a year talking about it.
The next group of resolutions, personnel, are for inside. We have to go over a few of those. Same thing with non-consent. Most of those are for inside, except for Resolution D9. And I'll let Mr. Topaz give his report on our monthly bullying harassment report.
Thank you, Dr. Maida. In accordance with the Bayonne Board of Education Policy 5512, during this reporting period, 9 incidents of harassment, intimidation, and bullying have been reported and investigated at the following schools. 1 incident at Philip G. Vroom School, 1 incident at Walter F. Robinson, 4 incidents at Mary J. Donahue, 1 incident at Woodrow Wilson, and 2 at Bayonne High School. In 7 of these cases, there were no confirmed evidence of the investigated acts of HIB. Strategies, resources, and remedial measures were implemented. All documentation is being retained by the school anti-bullying coordinators. 2 incidents of harassment, intimidation, and bullying have been reported, investigated, and confirmed, 1 at Mary J. Donahue School and 1 at Woodrow Wilson School. Strategies and resources have been provided to the victims to assist in the recovery process. Consequences and remedial measures were given to the offender. All documentation is being retained by the anti-bullying coordinator. Thank you, Dr. Maynard.
Trustees, that is all I have for outside, so we're going to adjourn for legal, personnel, and negotiation items. It is 6:56.